if you were to meet someone, let's say you met someone who they had a just undeniably awesome story of transformation,
Yeah.
but it happened to be in a different belief.
Yeah.
What would that kind of like that realization that someone else
Yeah.
could have a different belief? Would that have an effect on your confidence?
It's hard because I know this may sound ridiculous to you, but I think it's impossible for anyone else to have a true, undeniable transformation. I think we all want something more.
Mm-hmm.
We all seek purpose, and we all want answers. And I think some people are willing to find it anywhere. You know, the first place that makes them feel accepted, or the first place that makes them feel loved, or the first place that gives them hope. I think they'll cling to that and want to find their faith in that. But I don't think that's necessarily the answer.
Good morning.
Morning.
You guys happen to have 10 minutes for a short interview?
For what?
Actually, you get to pick what it's about, but I talk to people about any belief that you hold, and you pick whatever it is, and then I just ask questions to understand what you believe, why you believe it, and how you came to know that to know or believe in it, I guess.
And what's it for?
I have a YouTube channel. It's something called Street Epistemology,
Okay.
and it's basically like a hobby. You know, I don't get paid it or anything like that, but there's other people that do it. So it's mainly to get to the bottom of why someone how someone arrived at a belief, or how they developed it over time,
Yeah.
and the reasons why they hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You want to give it a try? I time it for 10 minutes,
Sure.
but I can go longer if you guys would like to, but
That's fine.
it's just to kind of respect people's time.
Yeah.
So, okay. You guys are okay if I record it?
Sure.
All right. Cool. All right. My name is Eddie. How are you?
Brandon?
Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your name?
Samantha.
Samantha. Brandon and Samantha. Okay. So it can be, let me write that down before I forget. Brandon. I'll get that later. Okay. So, I typically do like one-on-ones, but I can do two people if it's like kind of like a similar belief.
Okay.
But what tends to happen is even if it's the same belief, or you have like your differing opinions, it's hard to stay focused because her answer might affect your answer.
Okay.
And so I kind of like try to stick to one. Does that make sense?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe we do it together.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So when I say you get to pick a belief, I mean anything. It could be, let me make sure I'm not in the light, sorry. It could, like, I can give you some examples. Like, I talked to someone about their belief that they saw a UFO. I saw a ghost. Hey, how's it going, man? How are you?
Hey, man.
Did all right.
Repent. Kingdom of God is at hand.
All right. Yeah, I interviewed him like months ago.
Yeah.
Let's see. So it could be like, I believe karma is real and happening. I believe that my horoscope predicts my day.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuff like that. Or
Sure.
I believe prayer works. I believe in a God. I believe the theory of evolution is accurate. Or it could be anything. But the conversations tend to be more interesting if it's something that you're really confident is true.
Okay.
So you can pick whatever it is
Sure. Pick whatever it is that we believe in. What I believe in.
that you want to talk about.
Okay.
So we can kind of you're comfortable unpacking a little bit, and I'll just ask questions.
I think Christianity describes it pretty well.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you put that into a truth statement? So
Mm-hmm.
what about Christianity is true? Like real basic, like
Yes.
I believe the Christian God is real, or I believe the Bible is true, or
Okay.
something like that. Some
Um,
sort of truth statement.
Yeah, so I definitely believe that the Bible is true. I believe that we are saved through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Okay. All right. Let's go with Bible is true. That seems like the most like fundamental kind of truth statement that kind of is like the foundation of it.
Okay.
Okay. And I want to get a sense of your confidence. I use a scale from 0 to 100. 0 meaning I have all questions, no confidence that this is true. 100% meaning I cannot be mistaken. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm closed off to it, or I'm closed-minded about it, as in I cannot be wrong. Where would you find yourself on that scale?
I think that although I do have a lot of, or a fair amount of questions, I do have 100% confidence that that is true.
100%? All right. Oh, I forgot to start the timer. I'm sorry. Okay. What is the main reason you are 100%?
The main reason. What do you got?
I think because. Okay, hold on, buddy. I think because, you know, like one thing with believing that the Bible is true and believing that Jesus really did die on the cross and resurrect, and that is our way to an eternal life with God, is because, you know, life is really, there's a lot of horrible things that take place. We see every day on the news, and there's a lot of, and that's been happening forever, but there's always goodness, and there's always grace, and there's always hope in, at least for me personally, that I've experienced in truly believing that Jesus is the way, is the reason for, Jesus is the reason for the hope, I guess.
Okay. I'm going to repeat back what you said, and just correct me if I'm not understanding it, because I really want to really understand what you're saying. You believe that the Bible is true because you experience horrible things, and there's a mixture of horrible things and also good things, and because. Are you saying that because the Bible gives you hope
I think
is
the
why
Bible is more of an example of how we can live our lives today. You know, because still in the Bible, bad things took place, horrible things took place, but you saw God's grace and God's love and good morning, and you know, providing for people and healing people. Jesus healed people, and you know, I think the same goes today. There's horrible things that happen, but I think goodness can come out of this.
Okay.
Not to say that horrible things have to happen for goodness to be seen, but goodness can happen.
Okay. If the Bible, I'm not, saying this is the case at all, but hypothetically, if the Bible didn't have a good message and good examples, would that be would you be less confident that it's true?
I don't know. I've never thought about that before.
I would say no. I think that my belief in the Bible is not contingent on necessarily what is contingent on what's being described or what takes place necessarily, good or bad. I think for me, when I think about purpose and meaning and fulfillment in life, I have definitely tried in the past to serve myself and search out things that I thought brought meaning and happiness and fulfillment, worldly things that this world, I think, perceives on us that do bring that, and I found that there's a lot of emptiness in that, and it really just is, it doesn't provide anything. It just seems like empty achievements and empty glories that I strive to achieve, and the only fulfillment and meaning and purpose that I've ever found is serving our Creator and God and all that is taught and said through the Bible and then just through Christianity. But I think that in that is my reasoning of belief and my willingness to obey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat back again, and
Yes.
again, just correct me if I'm not
Yeah.
quite understanding it. How you developed the belief that the Bible is true to the 100% confidence is the meaning and the purpose it gives you and the way at life, and you see what it when you follow it, I guess the fruits that it bears, sort of thing. Because by doing, by going through the teachings, it gives you a purpose that you can't get anywhere else. And
I think that I think that I would say maybe it's the other way around as far as pursuing God and Jesus Christ is my purpose, and the Bible to me is His word and teaching. So it's not necessarily I pursue the Bible. I would say that's kind of how I was hearing it. It's pursuing that, and then in that is found in Jesus Christ or in God. I think it'd be the other way around. So my purpose is pursuing our Creator and Savior.
Okay, let me ask it this way: is there anything that you could experience or see, or what would have to happen, or what would have to never happen in your past for you to be less confident? What would cause you to drop from like 100 to like 99% or 98?
I don't think that there is anything, because I do feel that I have experienced both extremes as far as what one would say is, things going extremely well and having all the things that one would want in life, but also going through tragedy and loss. And one would maybe describe as, the worst position to be in life. I've experienced both of those things, and the outcome has been the same on either side. And who I believe God is and my purpose in Him and through that has not changed, and I found was not contingent on the circumstances in life. And I feel like I have experienced both extremes.
Okay.
So that
Gotcha.
gives me that confidence that, I feel like I've been here and here and everything in between, and nothing has changed.
I gotcha.
We both are in kind of the same position where we've both experienced both extremes, and in both extremes we've never experienced any less of God's love or His grace or that hope, or even peace, even in really, really hard times. We both have lost a family member. My brother had cancer for 12 years.
Oh man.
And so
Sorry to hear that.
That's okay. But in those hard times, there's so much peace to be found when you have a relationship with Jesus, to where it's, no matter what the outcome, I know we eventually lost my brother, and he's in heaven, and so there's so much peace to be found, even though I can't see him right now, and I probably won't see him for a while, but I still have a lot of peace, and I think.
Okay.
Sorry.
So when I do these talks, I have conversations with all types of people, and I come across people of different faiths, have different perspectives on all sorts of things. And one of the gentlemen I interviewed, he called it the Hare Krishna movement. I think he was a Hindu, and he kind of had similar reasons of why he was confident in his beliefs. So he did find a sense of meaning and purpose, and it gave him peace to follow it. Do you think it's possible that other people could believe in something that may not be true, that also they could still get peace and meaning in their life?
I think that it definitely is possible that someone could feel a sense of peace and meaning through a lot of different things. I know that I never have, and I would say that due to my belief in God and what the Bible says, I do believe that only is found in Him and through Jesus Christ. So I would say that eternal peace, eternal fulfillment, something that surpasses all circumstances of life, I don't think is found in any way, any other way. But I definitely think there's possibility that maybe in a short term, or even long term, or in some sort of circumstance, that there could be maybe I would say a false sense of peace and meaning.
Okay.
That I think might be tested sooner or later and maybe proven otherwise.
If it's possible that someone could have a false sense of purpose and meaning, yet still be convinced that to 100% confidence that they have the truth or whatever. If that's possible, how did you discover that your belief was more than that? That you may be mistaken.
How did I discover that I may be mistaken, you said?
Yeah, so if someone can have hope and get a sense of meaning in their life from something, from a belief that is false, if that's possible, how did you discover that wasn't the case for you?
I think that I had a false sense of just joy and fulfillment and purpose, all the above, in my identity that was found in what I did and my achievements and success. And although for a while, I felt those things, I got to the end of that road or to a certain point and realized that kind of once you've achieved what you've always wanted to, or that you were striving to, or if you kind of reach a certain point, you realize that there's nowhere else to go from there. Okay. And you realize that it really is kind of empty. I think as long as you're in that pursuit of what you think brings happiness, there kind of is this false sense and this kind of perception of, as long as I keep working towards there, I mean, someday I can get there and someday I can find that. But then you get to a certain point where you kind of do achieve to some extent those things, and you realize there really is nothing here. I'm no better off now than I was when I started.
Okay.
And for me, that was a real big turning point. Just realizing that serving myself, searching after the things that I thought that I wanted out of life and that brought me purpose, and that I found my identity and did not achieve that, did not bring any of those things.
Okay. My timer went off, so I'll ask you like one, maybe two more questions, and we could be done. Let's say hypothetically that gentleman I spoke to, the Hindu, that his beliefs were correct, and yours was more, like how you view his, false hope or something like that. Would there be a way for you to discover that?
Yeah, I guess what you're asking is, would I ever be open-minded enough to maybe discover his belief? Maybe not even discovering his, but if it were the case that, let's just hypothetically, if you were mistaken about your beliefs, is it ever possible that I would change my mind?
No. Would you have a mechanism or a feedback loop to discover that? Yeah. What do you look for if your purpose and meaning in life is misled, or you know what I mean? Like how would that, if that Hindu was mistaken? Yeah. And he finds meaning and purpose in the same way you do, to 100% certainty. He's 100%, and you're 100%.
Yes.
How could someone who is so confident yet be wrong discover that?
So how can he discover that? Is what you're asking, or how would I?
How
for
would
myself?
Well, I guess I can't ask him, but
Yeah.
like, you see what I'm getting at? If it's
Yeah. If
if
I was
it
in
ha-
this position, I guess.
yeah, if you were holding a belief that
Yes.
was giving you meaning and purpose
Yes.
and peace, but yet still mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
would you be able to discover that?
Yeah, I think that that would happen at any point if what I held to be true turned out to be false, and if at any point there was, the peace and fulfillment and the joy, of my belief, I guess, was found out to not be existent. At that point, I think that would cause me to question it. I think a lot as kind of the similar, of kind of in pursuing what I would just say, kind of myself and just to serve myself in that I did that, and kind of as false, but got to the point and realized, like, man, there's just nothing here. So it turned out, my belief and what I thought was kind of going to deliver that didn't. So I think that scenario is what would have to take place.
Okay. Do you think, like, if something gives you meaning and purpose and gives you those results that you're looking for that aren't just like worldly, things that kind of fall short, even if that a belief gives you that, would you want to know whether that belief is true, or is it serving its purpose by doing that alone? Like, would it matter to you if those beliefs that are giving you all those things, would it matter if it's true, or is by delivering those results is what matters?
Yeah, I do think that is true, and I think that's kind of a hypothetical in a sense that I think that sooner or later, if something was not true, that peace and that fulfillment and all those things we were talking about, that would fall short at some point.
Okay.
And so,
like the test of time.
Exactly. So I think that just going through some things that I've gone through in the past, and just with the life that I've lived thus far, and experiencing everything that I feel like in all different spectrums, it has never failed, and has only grown, especially in some of the more difficult times. I think to me that has proven itself. And so,
what would you consider a failure?
I consider, getting to a point of searching after something, pursuing something, thinking that it will bring some happiness and some joy, and it doesn't, and you're left kind of feeling empty.
Okay.
Serving something that just turned out to not deliver what you thought it would. It's
interesting because, I don't know, I've gone way over time, so I thank you for your time.
No problem. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems as though people of other faith can get that same level of confidence.
Yeah.
And they're very sure. And I guess what I'm wondering is,
how is it possible that everyone feels that way?
Is there a way to distinguish, like if we had 4 people here and they all had all completely different beliefs, and they were 100%, and they're finding peace and meaning and hope, and they feel like their faith has not led them astray and all that, is there any way to distinguish which one is correct, whether or not it brings you peace or not? Is there a way to distinguish which one is actually true?
It's hard to. I don't have a lot of knowledge in a lot of other beliefs. I wish I had more. But from what I've been told, I believe that Christianity is the only religion where someone died and then rose again, came back to life. Whereas I don't know that there's any other religion that has that. There's And I think maybe that's part of what differentiates it.
Yeah, I think for me, I ultimately would just test all the different options against ultimately the Bible and what it preaches, and I do believe that there's a lot of validity in the Bible being just, one of the oldest books and has stood the test of time, and it's been the most popular, book and all of that. I think that there's a lot of validity in that, and so that is what I would use as that differentiator. Yeah.
Okay.
To test those, and
So let's say, hypothetically, that you guys looked into someone else's religion and they also had a resurrection in it, and their book happened to be older than the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be something to indicate that your faith might be mistaken? Is that a good way to determine?
No, I don't think that the age of a book or the story in a book, or really anything, in itself would be able to surpass that. I think that it's my belief in the Bible itself is based off my belief in God and His Word in it. So I don't know. I don't think if I was given a book that was older or necessarily in that itself it would. But I also don't know of one.
Yeah.
I don't think there is one, and I think that just gives some validity to the Bible. When someone asks, how can you say this is right? I think that in that I think is some truth, just because everybody or all different religions think that is the only way.
That's interesting, because basically what you're saying is you find that the how old the Bible is and the resurrection gives it validity.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to discover that another book was older and had a resurrection story in it, that wouldn't be significant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like because maybe you're holding a particular belief that you have different standards for each one? Like, are you being objective in that sense?
I don't know if I'm being objective, but I do think that, again, I guess the Bible is more than just an old book or having a story of a resurrection. I think that
it's much more than that.
Yeah, I think that there's just so much power in that when I read that book, and what it has to say. There's so much more power in it itself and through the words. So if I knew of another book or read a book that had the same power, then maybe that would cause question. But there is no other book that I've ever read that has had that, and to my knowledge, and I think the Bible just syncs up with my belief system as well, and the things that I have found to be true. It all coincides together. So I think one is not self-sufficient on itself.
Like you see how things correlate in your life when it says, "Hey, do this, and you will get you receive this," sort of thing, and you apply it to your life, and it does the work, sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess I almost would think that I don't know if the Bible itself would have necessarily an effect or the ability to transform. Well, I think that it does, but I think that ultimately, unless that person reading it has a relationship with Jesus Christ, and I think that I don't know, maybe just on its own, it might. I don't know.
I don't think you necessarily have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ to read the Bible to be affected by it.
Yeah, that's true.
Gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah, I know. That's why I kind of.
I think the Bible, even though it obviously takes place a long time ago, and the events in the Bible are way different than current events, there's a lot that you can relate to. And I think, a lot of, especially the Old Testament, is there to teach us, in a sense, what not to do. Obviously, we haven't had a flood and no one's had to build an ark, since the story of Noah in the Bible, but I think there's a lot to relate to, I think.
And the whole Old Testament takes place before Jesus Christ, and so, I guess, that also serves the purpose that argument doesn't hold up, obviously, like I previously was saying. But
I have one last question, and we can
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Cool.
I promise, unless you're like, please keep asking questions. So, if we, going back to that scenario, if we had like 4 different people with different faiths, and they all are 100% confident, they find that their faith gives them meaning and purpose, and it's a way of life for them, and it gets them through hard times. If we don't have a way to really distinguish which one is more correct, if we look at particular books they have, and we don't necessarily have a criteria that we could distinguish which one is true, I guess what I'm wondering is, if that's the situation we're in, how can you be 100% knowing that other faith people can get purpose and meaning from other beliefs?
See, I don't know if I really understand the question 100%.
So, if it's possible for someone, like, they all can't all be true. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So if someone can have a false belief, yet get that purpose and that meaning and that and have a way of life and have a sense of peace, and there's no way to really distinguish between their belief and yours as far as which one is more correct.
Yeah.
We all just have what we've experienced in our lives.
Yeah.
If that's the case, and a belief that could give someone meaning and purpose
Yes.
is false,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what you're standing on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
how can you be at that 100%?
Because I think my confidence is found in what I believe and what the Bible has to say, and what the transformation that I've gone through my relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think that in that and through what the Bible says about there only being one way, and that only through Jesus Christ is the truth and the way and the light. I mean, I believe that through that in itself, I guess.
Okay.
So that's why I don't question or think that there is another way, because I do believe that is true. I do believe the Bible says. And
And I think that's part of faith. A big part of Christianity is, faith. You don't have to necessarily have something tangible to prove it.
Okay.
I think the trees prove it. I think everything around us is proof that God is real, because God created it. There's so much beauty, even in science. I'm not very knowledgeable, but even in science, there is a lot to be seen that God is real.
Do you think that faith as a way to reach truth, like that criteria or that mechanism, is faith reliable in the sense that it reaches true conclusions?
Well, I mean, I kind of go back to the Bible talks about faith without works is dead, and faith, So I don't think that faith alone is what would get you there, I guess, or ultimately on its own.
Could someone have faith in something else that's incorrect? Like, is there anything that someone else couldn't use faith to get to?
I think that somebody could use faith to get to a lot of different things. I just don't think the transformation would take place. I don't think that there is power in necessarily a faith in something else.
Okay, gotcha. I think I would say that's the foundation for you guys, is that it's what it's done in your personal life, that transformation. And when it's interesting, I think, I wonder if you've met someone from another faith that had a similar story, what effect that would have, and maybe a way to distinguish between those two.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think
I definitely like to.
Yeah.
I wish I was more knowledgeable.
Cool. All right, guys. Well,
Do you personally have a faith or a belief?
no, I would like on that scale from 0 to 100. I would say I'm like at a 3%, and I never want to say 0 because I always want to stay open. I could be wrong, and if someone else has the truth, I want to know it.
Yeah.
But I'm more. I want to know the way they get to it to see if it's like a reliable way.
Yeah.
And so I talked to a bunch of people, and so a lot of people use faith as a method, or how it works in their life. The meaning they use faith as a way to be 100%. And from my talks, I don't find that faith is reliable in that way, because someone else could use faith to reach a different conclusion, and those two conclusions can't be both true at the same time. And so I'm all about not necessarily putting my money on a certain conclusion, but more about putting my money on the most reliable way to get to true conclusions. Like how we get there is more important, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mean I'm always open.
Yeah.
And if someone has like a belief that is true, and they have a way to show that it is true, I'm all ears.
Well, I think that you're right. And like I was saying, the Bible does talk about how the faith without works is dead. I mean, you're right that faith alone does not is not enough, and works alone is not enough. So just being a great person and doing all the right things is not enough. I mean, it's a good thing, but in that self, there has to be the marry of the two, I think, in order to have transformation and ultimately deliver something more and have power of something more.
Interesting. If you were to meet someone, let's say you met someone who they had a just undeniably awesome story of transformation, but it happened to be in a different belief. What would that kind of like that realization that someone else could have a different belief, would that have an effect on your confidence?
It's hard because I know this may sound ridiculous to you, but I think it's impossible for anyone else to have a true, undeniable transformation. I think we all want something more. We all seek purpose, and we all want answers. And I think some people are willing to find it anywhere. The first place that makes them feel accepted, or the first place that makes them feel loved, or the first place that gives them hope. I think they'll cling to that and want to find their faith in that. But I don't think that's necessarily the answer. You know what I mean? It's almost like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
So I think that's a hypothetical, and I think, there's just some hypotheticals that are just never going to take place. I think.
So, if it's possible for someone to have a transformation, and like you're saying, they cling to it because everyone's looking for hope and meaning, how do you distinguish between a transformation that's from the truth and a transformation that just happened from your personal desires to have meaning and purpose?
I think it's diving into that transformation and hearing, what has really transformed, not just a way of life or, actions changing, but kind of hearing more, diving deeper into what actually has taken place,
And I think, too, we can have an outwardly transformation, and a lot of times, like, have we really inwardly changed or had that transformation? We may appear happier, or we may appear more at peace, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily there on the inside.
Okay. So what would be, going back to the how, what would be a way to figure out that transformation is how do we distinguish? Like, what would you look for if your transformation was happened through something that wasn't true. Like if it could happen to someone else, how do you safeguard and be confident that it didn't happen to you the same way? What do we look for to know that our transformation isn't, it is, like if it was similar to what someone else might experience?
Well, I think that the Bible has a lot of a big part to do in that, because somebody can feel transformation in a belief and a faith in someone or something, but for them to marry that separately with a book that is one of the oldest and tested books of our time, and for those to say the same exact thing and to have kind of a marriage in those two things separately is powerful. Kind of a checks and balances in a sense. I think that there's no other belief that has a book also that has stand the test of time and as the Bible.
If you were to discover one, would that be sort of? Because here's what I'm seeing, like from an outsider perspective.
Yeah.
We kind of like dug real deep, and it seemed like transformation is the way that you get to a true meaning and purpose, not just something that you could feel from a false belief, and that's how you concluded that the Bible is true. But it also seems that the way you know your transformation is true it goes back to the Bible. So it kind of seems like it's a kind of like a circle of confirmations. And so if I took the Bible out of that and I replaced it with the Hindu holy book, the Bhagavad Gita, or I think it's what it's called, and someone else could potentially do the same thing, is their transformation is true because the Bhagavad Gita is true, and they know the Bhagavad Gita is true because they had a transformation. You know what I mean? So what could break that circular sort of reasoning to really distinguish between true transformations of, not necessarily true transformations, but transformations that are based on truth versus transformations that are not based on truth. But you guys don't necessarily have to answer that right now. I know I've asked a ton of questions, maybe so you can just think about it. I've asked a lot of your time already, but if you,
it's been great, Luke.
Okay.
I don't know. I just think
How many of the people you interview do they extend a hand and invite you to come to their church or their whatever?
It happens from time to time. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're seeking something
I'm definitely a truth seeker, truth wanted, as they would say. And
what have you? So, for instance, if you dived into Christianity and the Bible, have you found anything not to be true?
I think there's a lot of discrepancies in what science discovers versus what the Bible talks about. I mean, the most obvious and one everyone talks about is the evolution, but there's Christians that also believe in evolution and incorporate that. But it kind of just depends on your take of the Bible. If it's if you believe it literally is true, but some things are metaphorical, so it gets a little tricky. But for me, it's all about how do I confirm this to be true? Could this, if this were in a different book, would I accept that? How, if I was wrong? Here's a good question. That anytime I'm thinking about something, if I'm wrong about it, how would I know? So it's kind of like a scientific method, like a falsification mechanism. So I use this example a lot. So I believe in gravity. It's pretty consistent. I wake up and it's pretty the same. It's the same, and I can predict its behavior. If I let go of this pen, it's going to drop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I verified that it's working today, right? But even though I may not think that it actually will, it'll stop working, I can still notice when it does. If gravity suddenly stopped working and I let go, I can identify things that, if that happened, I could recognize that gravity stopped working. It floated, it went up, slowed down, or not as fast. I can notice, or I'm able to know when I'm wrong about something, or that.
Yeah.
So, if I have a belief that I may not know if I'm wrong about it, there's nothing I can identify as saying, if this happens, then I know I'm wrong, or if that happens, then I know I'm wrong. Then it seems to be the case that if you don't have that in a belief, if it's not falsifiable, it's possible you could be mistaken about it and not have a way to know it. And
a way to test it.
Yeah, and if I can't test it, I can never get to that 100% mark.
Yeah, I think that's where faith plays a big role in it. You have to have faith in order to believe in something that you can't see or test every day.
Is faith a reliable way to truth?
I think it's what you experience in that faith. You can't just like, oh, I have faith. I believe God's real. I think a lot of it too is God validates our faith and gives us reason to believe it.
Is the validation? Oh man, that's a good one. Is the validation kind of like that personal meaning and purpose, or is it something that someone else could go, oh yeah, I see that too?
Well, I think that like with Christianity, if you have faith in God and in Christianity, the Bible is the Word of God and our teachings, and you read that book was written so long ago and prophesies about so many things that later came true. I think that's the validity, that's the
prophecy.
Fulfilled. And I don't know of any other book that has fulfilled prophecy.
Okay.
Or time and over and over again, and in so many different ways that the Bible has. So if I have faith in something, it leads me back to a book that has prophecy that's been fulfilled, stood the test of time, been the one book. Those to me is if somebody really needs that test or some of those concrete things, that's something that can provide that. But I think that ultimately in that the transformation.
Let your children drop this.
Nope, not ours, but thanks.
Yeah. So let's say that if you discovered hypothetically, like let's say you dived in and you looked into prophecy and you're like, let me just Google any rebuttals to prophecy, and like a week from now you you were not so confident that prophecy was fulfilled, and if that happened, would that make you less confident that the Bible is true?
I mean, hypothetically, I guess it's possible, but I know that people have tried for forever to discredit and disprove the Bible, and I don't believe anyone ever has, and so I don't think that there is any hypothetical there for me because it's been tested.
So going back to that idea of falsification, what would be a test that you could do that would indicate that it didn't withstand the test of time? Like, what would you accept as evidence that the Bible may not be 100% true? Is there anything you could point to?
Well, so if the Bible, spoke of a faith and a creator and a savior that I then believed in and followed, but in that was not purpose and peace. I mean, so then, okay, this has concrete answers. I'm going to now do what it says and believe it. You go and do those things. If it doesn't, happen, then that would be a failure. Clearly, that wasn't true because I've done this and I haven't, been followed, and but.
Remember, earlier in the conversation we talked that someone could have a purpose and meaning in life, still be transformed, but that doesn't mean their belief is true necessarily. People could be,
but that's kind of on its own. I mean, if you look at, going through faith, and having faith in religion, that then ties back to, so if somebody really wanted, answers and concrete and tangible things, and then brings you back to a book. You know what I mean? That then supports that faith, and in that is transformation. I mean, I did think that it's, not one on its own necessarily, but kind of everything together supports each other.
Yeah.
Which I don't know of any other religion or belief or thing that does that.
It's interesting.
That has proof, has faith, and also is transformation, or has transformation in the process, and that holds up on every end.
Interesting.
So.
Cool. All right, guys.
Cool,
well, I have a
Appreciate
card.
it. Great.
You
can't
guys
wait
ever
to-
any questions? You can always email me.
Cool, man.
Sometimes people like someone wanted to reach out, but they'll see me on the trail and be like, "You want to talk?"
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, "Well, I probably should get an email address so people can reach out."
Yeah.
So-
That makes sense. Well, I appreciate it, man, and this has been good, and hope that you've enjoyed it as well. And
Yeah.
we'll,
It was interesting.
yeah.
I liked the questions you asked.
yeah, it's never hurts to
Cool.
test your faith.
Appreciate it, guys.
You said you have a YouTube channel you do all this on?
Yeah. It is Deep Discussions, and I cover all sorts of beliefs, and I try to understand, what they believe and how they came to it, and the process they used, and whether I can take that process and reach other conclusions, and whether it's reliable. And I would kind of do all sorts of things. I do like a tic-tac exercise, all sorts of things. Yeah, you guys check it out.
Cool, man.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well.
Thank